Okay, so one of the questions I get asked quite a lot is how many meals are necessary to eat per day for fat loss? And then on top of that, whether breakfast is important, whether you can eat breakfast, whether you can skip breakfast, and whether you can eat late at night, or that whole thing about eating carbs and eating food after 6 p.m. is a bad idea. So in short, the most important thing when it comes to your fat loss goal or getting in better shape, whatever you want to call it, is that in order to lose fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit, i.e. you need to be eating less calories than you burn. That's rule number one. Then rule number two is to make sure you're hitting enough protein in, and we'll cover that in another video as to why that's really important. But the rest of the questions about meal frequency, how many meals a day you need to eat, whether breakfast is important, whether you can eat late at night, aren't that important compared to whether you're in a calorie deficit, i.e. you're eating less calories than you burn. Because that one thing is going to dictate your results more than anything else. The other stuff is kind of like details that we can fill in later. But in short, you don't have to eat 5 or 6 meals a day to increase your metabolism and to keep yourself ticking over. That isn't necessary. Some people prefer that way because it means that they're not waiting so long between meals and they can crave off their hunger pangs. That's okay. Other people prefer to eat just 2 to 3 meals a day. That's also fine. It doesn't matter which way you go about it. Can you skip breakfast? Yes, 100%. Do I recommend it? Depends on you as an individual, what your lifestyle like, what's your job like, how many times a week you're training, whether you're training in the morning or training in the evening, all of these different variables. But do you need food in the morning to function well? If you do, eat breakfast. If you don't feel like you have to eat breakfast, because that calorie goal that we set is always the number one rule. So whether you consume those calories later in the day or whether you consume those calories earlier in the morning and then don't eat late at night is kind of up to you. Can you eat after 6 p.m.? Yes, 100%. The whole thing about not even being able to eat carbs and food at 6 p.m. because they just sit there and get stored as fat is a myth. It doesn't really make much sense. You can eat calories later in the day, providing that you stay within your calorie goal. If you go over your calorie goal at any point, then you're not going to lose weight, you're not going to lose fat, and you're going to stay where you are or potentially put on weight. And that doesn't matter whether you consume those calories earlier or you consume those calories later. If you go over your daily total, you're going to struggle. If you stay under your daily total, and let's say you have your last meal at 8 or 9 o'clock, but you're still under your daily total, that's absolutely fine. Nothing bad is going to happen from that. So you don't have to worry too much about meal frequency and meal timing when you're training 2 to 3 times a week and looking to get in better shape and just lose a little bit of fat. Like, that's not the biggest priority. The biggest priority is the calorie deficit. So how many times a day you eat really isn't important as long as it suits your lifestyle. The same goes for skipping breakfast and eating later at night. Like, what suits your lifestyle? A lot of the clients I work with, what we tend to do is have smaller meals throughout the day and save a fair amount of calories for the evening, because that's typically when social occasions are going to happen. That's typically when you get home from work and you're maybe quite hungry and you tend to reach for things. So if you've got more calories left available, that makes sense to do it that way. So again, it's kind of like an it depends question. It really does depend on multiple factors, but you don't have to be a certain way to get results. You don't have to eat 5 or 6 meals a day. You don't have to eat breakfast. You can't eat late at night. All of those things, that are kind of like touted out as you can't do these things. You can. You just need to factor in whether it suits your lifestyle or not, and make sure that you're also in a calorie deficit. Otherwise, everything else is futile.